At the final stages of a house, it's all about the finishing touches. And this 14-mansion development in Nairobi is almost done. It's called Miatoni Ridge. It might as well be Millionaire's Mile. These houses are designed for the very highest end of the luxury market, with all the mod cons, 5 ensuite bathrooms, hardwood floors, Venetian finishes, and a fully fitted Italian kitchen. These properties are running for more than $1 million US, and it might surprise you that they're already 60% sold out. In fact, in a recent study by City Private Bank and Knight Frank, Nairobi was rated the best performing prime residential market globally. That didn't surprise Knight Frank's managing director in Kenya, but it did surprise their research department.
We were higher than Miami, and it was like, how dare you, so we had to sort of justify our figures and said, yes, this really is what's happening here. But it's about growth. It's not about value. So it's about, Nairobi has grown 25% in terms of its residential market over the year before. So it's a level of growth in Nairobi, and similar at the coast as well.
But it's not just presumably that you're coming off a low base, It's also about certain factors that are making investment attractive here. What are those factors?
Well, I think regionally Kenya certainly is a safe haven. I think that people are seeing relatively good returns in Kenya specifically, but in Africa as a whole, particularly with the problems that we're seeing in the rest of the world. A lot of Kenyans living in the diaspora, in the States, in Europe, send a lot of money back to Kenya, and a lot of that gets invested in the property market. So that's another big driver for us.
Woodham says it's mostly Kenyan or Kenyan-linked investors that are driving the prime market to number 1. And number 2 in the index wasn't London, Vancouver or Hong Kong.
Number 2 was the coast, where local and international investors are flocking in to get a unique combination of sun and culture.
Mombasa, Malindi and Lamu on the Indian Ocean saw 20% growth in the luxury market. Lamu, a tiny island off Kenya's north coast, is the second home to princes and tycoons.
Here's the house we're renovating, Andabello House, just up here. Wow.
And Andrew McGee says he's the only real estate agent based here. He's renovating a 19th century Swahili mansion.
There's all the very intricate renovation that one does on the decorative plasterwork and the painting of the beams. So many people come here and are entranced by it and make that decision, that it sells itself.
McGee believes that Kenya's coast tugs at people's heartstrings, not just their wallets.
So the fact that it's unique is actually a selling point, because sometimes people don't want something that's all that different for such a big investment.
Yeah, I think Lamu attracts a fairly adventurous, romantic sort of person who wants to come somewhere that's completely different to their everyday lives, probably. And while the old town has changed a little bit in the last 5 years, it hasn't changed very much in the last 500 years.
But things have changed. Somalia is just up the coast, and recently its lawlessness spilled over the border. Kidnapping in the area prompted several countries to put out travel warnings. Kenyan forces have occupied southern Somalia and beefed up security on the coast. The warnings were lifted, but the chilling effect remains. On the whole, international investors have been slow to dive into the market.
International investors are keen on getting into countries where they know that their property rights are protected, where the rule of law is respected, and where there's a perception that the justice system is not up to par. Then they prefer to stay away, and that's why you're seeing more local investors actually investing in these markets as opposed to international investors.
Analysts say that uncertainty about upcoming elections and high interest rates may slow growth, but agents believe it will only be temporary.
Individual and institutional investors, why would they want to come to Kenya now?
Yeah, I think, as I said, it's about returns. And we're not just talking about the direct relationship between rent and capital value. We're talking about, year-on-year growth as well. And I think that's the key. The levels of growth that we've seen in Kenya have made returns for corporate and institutional investors very good indeed.
Ultimately, they hope the deals will be just too good to miss. Dave McKenzie, CNN, Nairobi.